Hey guys, this is Catherine from All Day Crochet. I really just wanted to take the time to make my first ever how to crochet video, and I hope it's going to be the first of a series of videos I'm going to be doing on how to do the basics of crocheting, how to do patterns, how to read patterns, all the good stuff that you need to know to learn how to do this hobby that I have become very passionate about and I really enjoy doing. I've been wanting to make these videos for a while because, we're in an era full of technology and I taught myself by watching YouTube videos. So I figured, why not show other people how to do it? Because, like I said, I've become very passionate about it and I really enjoy it. I started All Day Crochet as a way to show off what I had made as I learned to crochet and showing how much I had grown and learned how to make new things. And my friend Mallory actually got involved with it as well, and this idea has kind of just blossomed. And we also have another page aside from All Day Crochet called Talk Yarny to Me, to where once you learn how to do it, you can join as well. And post all your great stuff too, to where we can see it and, we can talk yarny and have some fun. I actually taught Mallory how to crochet one night after I'd only been doing it for a couple of months because that's how much fun I had doing it. And I was like, you're really going to love this and it's going to become very easily addicting. So I've been doing it for a little over a year, almost 2 years. And I originally taught myself because I was a teacher on summer break and I was really, really bored and just trying to find things to entertain myself that I could make a new long-term hobby out of. I get that from my dad a lot. He goes from hobby to hobby to hobby, and I really enjoy making things with my hands like he does. And as a kid, I had always seen my grandmother crocheting, and she was one of the most important people in my life, and she's so influential. And ever since she's passed away, I've just always regretted that I didn't learn how to crochet from her. So over the summer, a couple of years ago, I taught myself through YouTube and Pinterest and just learned all the odds and ends of it. And it was very time consuming and a little defeating at first because it was such a struggle. Like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. It's so difficult and it doesn't look very good. But I had to stick with it. And then eventually I got really good and I just continued to learn and grow and develop. I really wish I'd kept all of the little crappy little squares that I had made to where I could show you, a series of progression on how well it looks once you stick with it. But anyways, let's get right to the video. I'm going to show you today just some basics of crochet early on. Which hooks are the most common, to where if you want to start doing this, you don't have to waste a lot of money getting things that aren't really commonly used in a lot of patterns. Types of yarn that are very easy to use when you're learning. And then I'm just going to show you the foundation of how to make a chain, and we'll build into learning how to single crochet, which is a very common stitch. Okay, so I told y'all I was going to show you some of the basics of crocheting. These are just some commonly used tools. I have several crochet hooks here. These are actually the 3 most common sizes. Sorry, that one wants to keep rolling away. But these are commonly used pretty much in I've seen them in a lot of patterns. They have them in more sizes, smaller to where you can make lace, and then bigger ones as well. But these are the 3 most commonly used. You also have a good pair of scissors. I got these in the Notion section of the yarn at Hobby Lobby for like $7. They work really, really well, but any scissors will cut your yarn because it's just yarn. This is called a stitch marker. This is actually very useful with making amigurumi, which is like stuffed animals. It's also good for blankets. Basically any project you can use these. It helps you keep track of your first stitch. They just lock around it, and it helps you not lose your marking or where you started at or your count, because counting is very important in crochet. I also have here what is, I call it a yarn needle. It's thicker than a regular needle. It's also called a large blunt eye needle because the eye part of it here is very thick for yarn. I have so many of these. They come in plastic and metal. I find the plastic ones are not the best to buy because as you're trying to sew in your ends and connect parts of stuffed animals, if you make them, the needles bend. The metal is a couple dollars more, maybe just a few cents more, but it's definitely a better investment for your projects because they don't bend and they're just easier to use. But these are a definite must because once you're done with your projects, whether you're making a stuffed animal, whether you're making a headband, a hat, whatever you're working on, you're going to have a yarn tail that you have to weave in because it's going to be the end of the yarn. So these are a definite must. I also have here just a small ball of cotton that I had left over from, I think, a dish rag that I had made. I learned to crochet using a variegated yarn. This is a variegated, you can tell because it changes colors. I found it easier to learn on something like this because you have to learn to count your stitches and which stitch you're actually going to be going into, which will make sense once we start looking at stitches, but it's just easier to learn with. I personally do not use cotton a lot. It's not something I really enjoy working with, but cotton is good for dishcloths. It's good for hot pads. It's good for facial scrubbies. It's just more of an organic material. I personally enjoy acrylic yarn because it works easier for me, but cotton is easy to work with as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to unravel this yarn a little bit because I'm using a table and the ball is definitely going to roll off. Yarns do not ever come in a ball like this. I always wind them up once I'm done. They usually come in something called a skein, which is usually pretty, it's already rolled off, you can see. It's pretty easy to pull from, but I'm going to unravel some of it just so I don't have to keep unrolling as we go. So the first thing you're going to do is to make a slip knot. The easiest way to do this is to take your yarn with the tail. I'm right-handed, so I take my tail in my left hand, and you're just going to hold it like this. And you're going to put your 2 fingers in the yarn. You're going to cross it over and pull it through. Okay, and so you're going to have a pretty big loop, but if you pull this tail, then it will become smaller. I always like to put my hook in it. I'm not going to use that 4. I'm actually going to use my 5 right now. If you put that hook in there and you pull your tail, it actually gets smaller around it. So it doesn't really matter how big your slip knot is. Once you put it on your hook, it's going to be fine because it gets the size it needs to do it. So I'm going to set these aside because they're kind of in my way. But I'm going to go over that one more time because I'm a teacher and I always warn my students ahead of time that I talk very, very fast. So I try to slow down, but it's just not my thing. So my tail is in my left hand. I have my yarn. I'm just going to hold it like this, put my fingers inside of it. Oop, dropped it. Put my 2 fingers inside of it, cross the yarn over to where it looks like this, and I'm going to pull this through it, and it makes a very nice little knot called a slip knot. I'm going to put my hook in. I'm using a size 5mm or an H hook. You can tell my hook here actually shows the size. It's not really going to focus very well on my phone camera, but every hook will tell you what size it is. So I'm going to pull it to where my slip knot is the size I need it to be. The most difficult thing I found when I was learning how to crochet was how to hold everything. There are a lot of different ways of holding the hooks. You can hold it like I do, like a knife. I think it's easier. A lot of people will hold it like they're holding a pencil also. I can do it that way. I just don't move as quick. And sometimes I really just like to get projects done. So I hold it like a knife because it's easier for me to manage. So the rest of it, you have to use your non-dominant hand quite a bit to hold your yarn. So what I do is I take my yarn that is connected to the ball still and I put it in these 3 fingers, and then I hold it like an L like this and wrap my finger through the yarn. So again, 3 fingers, I wrap it around like I'm making a finger gun, and then I just put my 2 fingers here around this slip knot because it gives me something to anchor and hold on to, and it makes my fingers feel less useless. Sometimes I tend to feel like Ricky Bobby, like I'm not sure what to do with my hands. So this is definitely a good way to keep all of my fingers occupied to where I'm not having noodles everywhere. So again, fingers out like this. I use my 3 fingers to hold my tail. I make a finger gun, wrap it around my finger, and I put my thumb and my middle finger right here. So once you figure out the best way to hold it for you, there are a lot of different ways. I'm actually going to take my yarn or my hook and I'm going to go underneath the yarn. That's called yarning over. So I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to show you again. I'm going to do it a couple times. Go underneath, and I'm going to turn my hook and pull my yarn through that loop. Okay, and that is called making a chain. So I'm going to do it again. That's 1 chain right now. We're actually going to go up to about probably 26. So again, I'm going to go under my yarn, yarn over, pull my hook through the loop. And now I have 2 chains. Okay, I'm going to go under again, turn my hook, grasp the yarn with my hook and pull it through. Go under, grasp it, pull it through. Go under, grasp it, and pull it through. Under, grasp it, and pull it through. I keep saying that because I'm one of those people, like, I have to talk to myself while I do things. So if I start to get annoying, I apologize. So I'm going to take my hook again. You can see I have the hook right here. I'm going to go underneath, roll it to where the hook grasps the yarn, and I'm just going to pull it through the loop on my hook. So like I said, we're going to go up to about 26. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to count these. I apologize, my phone is not the best camera. But all of your stitches will make these nice and pretty V shapes. Okay, I'm going to pull my yarn a little bit and take my hook out to where you can see them. So you have these nice little pretty V stitches. And that is how you're going to be able to tell what your stitches are. So they all make this nice little V shape. Every V is a stitch. I'm going to put my hook back in the loop. But right now I've done about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get to 26. While you're learning, I think when I started learning how to make a chain, I just did as many as I could until I got comfortable with the motion. But I have 7 and I'm going to go to 26. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay, and I know 26 is a very specific number. The reason I did 26 is because I want to do 25 single crochets. And patterns will typically tell you to skip the chain closest to your hook because it's just really difficult to put your hook right in that first chain. So you always go into the second chain from the hook. So the first chain is right here next to it. It's right here next to it. I'm going to skip that one and I'm actually going to use this next one. So I'm just going to insert my hook into one loop of this V. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, 1 and 2. And I'm just going to do the same motion I was doing for chaining. So I'm going to stick my hook underneath the yarn. I'm going to curve it to where it pulls through 1 loop of the 2. So I pulled it through 1 and I still have 2 hooks on my loop. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go underneath, pull it through, but this time I'm going to pull it through both loops on my hook. Okay, and that is the first single crochet. And you can see again, it's kind of hard to see with my hook in the way, I apologize, that I have this nice little V stitch right here. It makes a nice little V. That is my first single crochet. And I'm actually going, for the sake of showing you how to use these, I'm going to put my stitch marker in that first V of my single crochets to where I know to keep count. That was very difficult for me to do when I first started crocheting. I would, you know, get to where I needed to be, and all of a sudden, instead of having the first row, I might have 25, the next row I would have 20, and it would just gradually get smaller and smaller. So learning how to make sure you're doing an accurate count is very important. So I'm going to try to get it to focus a little bit more. My light keeps getting in my way. To where you can see what I'm doing a little bit up close. So I'm going to make another single crochet. I'm going to go into this loop right here of this white stitch. I do variegated when I learned because I would be like, oh, I just finished that white stitch to where I don't go into the same one. I need to go into the yellow one next. It made it easier for me. So I have 2 loops on my hook, 1 and 2, and I'm just going to continue to do the same motion. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 1, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. So now I have 2 single crochet, and I'm just going to do that again. Go into a loop, pull it through. I have 2 loops on my hook still, and then I'm going to pull it through 2. So I'm going to insert my hook into this next stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull it up. I still have 2 loops, and then I'm going to do it again. And I'm just going to continue to do that until I get to 25. So I already have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm just going to continue going until I get to the very end. And my setup here is not too great. I'm actually filming in my bedroom, which is a little messy. And I don't really have the best camera setup because, you know, I'm not really a YouTuber or anything like that. I don't really make videos very often. I just have my iPhone and like a stand I got at like Five Below. That is not really working too great. So if I plan on making this a series, I'm probably going to try to get a better setup of what's going on to make it to where it'll focus and stuff that's easier for you to see. And I'm coming pretty close to the end. And feel free to speed up the video if you don't want to see me like just doing all of these stitches. When I was learning, I would pause videos nonstop to get the basics of it. Okay, so I'm doing the last stitch right now. Okay, so I have this nice little row of single crochets, and excuse me, it just looks really nice once you learn how to do it correctly. So to finish off, I'm just going to make 1 row just because that's really all I kind of want to do right now. But to finish off your yarn and to finish your project, you're just going to have 1 loop on your hook, and you're just going to do like you're making a chain. So you're going to put your hook underneath and yarn over and pull it through, and then really pull it through. Okay, you can see my yarn balls rolling away. And so I have like a very long loop. I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it. And then I'm just going to pull the yarn from my yarn ball out. And so I have this really long tail, and I'm just going to pull it tight to where it makes a knot. And so I have this nice little row of single crochet, and that's just the basics of it. Learning how to make a chain is extremely important, and single crochet is probably the most commonly used stitch. So the next time in the next video, I'll show you again just the basics of this, and I'll show you a stitch called double crochet. To get rid of these little tails, you'll just put these on the hook, one of these on the, not the hook, I'm sorry, the needle. You just thread it through the needle. And you just weave this through a couple of stitches to where you feel like it's secure enough and not really an eyesore in your project. I know this isn't necessarily a project, but it's the best way to get rid of it. And so I just weave it through a few stitches, and then I'm just going to cut it, because as long as it's not seen and it's not really in the way, you'll be fine. And they stay in pretty good. So I'm just going to do that with the other one as well. I think you'll find out, like all crocheters find out, weaving in ends is probably the worst part of crocheting, because you're just so excited to be done with a project, and then it's just kind of tedious and monotonous to do this, but it's a necessary part of it. So again, just going to weave these through a few stitches and then call it a day and cut it off. And so I have this nice little stitch, or row of stitches, on how to single crochet. So I speak a little fast. I apologize if I went too quick. This is my first video, so it is a learning process for me too. I really hope you enjoy the video. I hope you learn to crochet and really stick with it. And I promise I will try to make another video pretty soon, at least before I go back to work from Christmas break. Thanks for watching.